On the morning of August the 15th, following the continued refusal of the Yazidis to convert, ISIL fighters descended. Over the course of our investigation, UNITAD has collected extensive testimonial accounts from survivors. By synthesizing these assets, UNITAD has pieced together the tragic events of August the 15th, beginning at Kocho school, where ISIL had demanded that all the villagers should report.
When I got to the school, it was already almost full, because most people lived closer than I did.
The school was crowded, with hundreds of frightened villagers.
This hallway was full of people.
Some Daesh members came to us and told us to hand over all our belongings, our gold, money, and phones.
According to call data records obtained by UNITAD, phone activity essentially ends as ISIL confiscates the villagers' means of communication. Once in the school, ISIL separated the men from the women.
The women were put upstairs and there were Daesh fighters at the bottom of each set of stairs.
Sheikh Ahmed Jasso, the Mukhtar of the village, was being held in the main hall of the school. The women who were being held upstairs could hear the activity through the balcony above.
I heard the Daesh member say to Ahmed Jasso, "If all of you convert to Islam, we will not order you to do anything." Ahmed Jasso said, "If I speak for myself, I will not become Muslim, but let me ask my people." Then all the men said, "We will not become Muslim."
Downstairs, ISIL began to remove the men from the school in small groups. The men were taken in groups to a number of sites around Kocho. Many believed they were being transported to safety, to Mount Sinjar.
When we first got in the truck, we thought we were going towards Sinjar mountain. But when it turned towards here, we started to get scared.
Unknown to them, the men were being collected for mass execution at a number of sites surrounding Kocho village.
Daesh told us to get out of the vehicle and organize ourselves in a single line. We couldn't arrange ourselves in a line as we were panicking and scared, so we held each other's hands. At that moment, all I thought of was my son, because I thought to myself that Daesh would kill our children too. Daesh surrounded us in a circle and were holding PKCs, pistols and AK-47s. In a few minutes, they started shooting at us and we all fell to the ground.
There's the grave. They were shooting from behind until we were all collected there. They lined up and they told us to crouch down like this. That's when they shot us and the planes were flying overhead, and after they stopped shooting, they started killing people over there too.
On August the 15th, hundreds of men, nearly the entire male population of Kocho, were systematically and deliberately murdered. There are 17 mass grave sites in and around Kocho. UNITAD has worked with local authorities and the Yazidi community to identify and excavate all of them. With advanced technology and in close partnership with Iraqi and KRG authorities, UNITAD has ensured that the evidence collected is in line with international standards and incorporated into case files assembled against those responsible. For the women and children of Kocho, the horrors of August the 15th were merely the beginning. ISIL transported everyone left at Kocho school north to the nearby small village of Solar, at the site of a former technical college that ISIL used as a holding area.
Daesh took us to the Solar Institute. It was around 2 p.m. and we stayed there overnight. On the second day, about 10 o'clock, the Daesh members took the old woman outside of the institute.
My mother saw an excavator outside and that Daesh fighters were preparing for the execution.
UNITAD has confirmed that 82 women, 40 years old or older, and 10 boys were executed in this mass grave next to the Solar Institute, which was finally excavated in November 2020 and their remains collected.
After that, they took us, the younger women and children, to a school in Tel Afar.
From Tel Afar, women and children entered an extensive network of human trafficking. Almost without exception, the women ended up in sexual slavery. UNITAD's diverse collection of evidence has enabled the team to identify key perpetrators of the Kocho massacre and subsequent trafficking of women and children. An ISIL payroll roster extracted from battlefield evidence revealed detailed information such as full names and monthly salaries for a number of suspects. One of the principal perpetrators of the Kocho massacre, a man known as Abu Hamza, appears repeatedly. As part of this effort, the team partnered Situ Research to develop a digital evidence presentation platform which will be made available to national authorities. The platform translates the meticulous details of the case brief into a dynamic and accessible repository of evidence that can be presented clearly in court. Through close cooperation with the families of victims, Iraqi authorities and NGOs, UNITAD has also recently supported the identification and return of remains of some of those killed in Kocho on the 15th of August 2014. This represented a profound moment of reflection for the Yazidi community and a small step towards justice for the victims and the survivors of the Kocho massacre. UNITAD is continuing its work with Iraqi authorities in order to identify remains and support their return to their families for proper and dignified burial. The massacres and subsequent enslavement of the Yazidi population of Kocho represents one of the many egregious and brutal examples of violence. We seek to meet the demands of survivors and the families of victims for individual perpetrators to be held accountable in a court of law, thereby building a basis for lasting peace and reconciliation.